We do every Friday from Scramblers. The doors open at 6 a.m. as the show starts, and then we will be having happy hour. And that is going to be at Vineyard Market, our good friends over there, 4 to 6 in the afternoon, and half-price appetizers, buy one, get one on beer and some wines as well during the happy hour for all of us. And that is something, of course, we're looking forward to. Now, tomorrow, let's see, we briefly mentioned this yesterday. During the road show at Scramblers, we're going to have a chance for you to grab tickets to see MSU's Bears baseball team take on Mizzou on the 15th, next Wednesday. It's a military and first responder appreciation game. Folds of Honor will have multiple events that day honoring our military. Let's see, Honor Wills starts at 6 p.m. First pitch will be at 6:30. And so it's expected to be just a great event, great game, and we've got a number of different tickets for that. So it's as simple tomorrow. We've been given enough generously for the KSGF listening base that all you got to do is stop by if you want to grab a pair, and we'll give those to you. No need to sign up or anything, but that's just a giveaway that we'll have going on tomorrow at Scramblers. Now, as far as right now, do we have a keyword yet for the...
Oh, no.
Okay.
Let me create that.
Okay, all right. Well, then I will hold off on mentioning that for just a bit. Christy Fulnecki is going to be joining us coming up here in the 7 o'clock hour. Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books of North Glenstone in the 8 o'clock hour. We'll get you updated on the... I almost hesitate, other than I just believe it is unavoidable to do any sort of update when it comes to what's going on with Iran, because one of the biggest problems that we have is this expectation of knowing what's going on at any given moment. When, one, it may not always be advantageous to the U.S. interest for, this is the thing. So much when it comes to negotiations are dependent upon secrecy from the outside world for a number of different reasons. You oftentimes, in order to get meaningful things done, you've got to do it in private. It's that way with all sorts of negotiations. This is why oftentimes when you're talking about negotiations with between businesses, dealing with contracts, employment, that secrecy is oftentimes enshrined in law in different forms. It is because of the importance of it. And we live in this bizarre time in which we demand to know absolutely everything that's going on at every given moment. And we don't stop to think that may not be productive. But even aside from that, even if it were information that were perfectly fine for all of us to know, with the ever-changing nature of these things occurring, the different forms of communication going on between the United States and whomever in Iran. This is something we don't even know. Obviously, the Trump administration knows whom it is that they are dealing with. We don't know. The idea that we could, in real time, constantly be getting accurate information anyhow, particularly when we are talking about media outlets that have it out for Donald Trump, whose number one priority is to derail what he's doing, even if it's harmful to the United States of America. And so you're given all of that. And the idea in that environment that we can legitimately at any given moment get a snapshot accurately of what's truly going on. And then, as if, Trump once again has demonstrated that while he isn't perfect, there really has been no one in the world as successful as him when it comes to this sort of thing. He's got the best batting average. I do find it somewhat humorous, and I'm not, we shouldn't just suspend all reason, suspend all curiosity, suspend all critical thinking. But there is a degree of questioning that at times I find humorous. People that have absolutely no negotiating skills whatsoever that sit back and criticize what Donald Trump is doing. I'm like, really? It reminds me of entrepreneurs that go out there and they start businesses and they fail a lot, but oftentimes they're successful, and then they're getting ready to get involved in some venture, and they're very excited about it, and they have a plan in place, and it's based on a track record of their own success. And then there's that brother-in-law or that buddy or that someone that just all they do is nitpick it apart and tell them, well, that's not going to work. The brother-in-law that's never ever been involved in any successful venture in his entire life suddenly is the expert. You're like, who the hell are you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to take advice from you. And like I said, that doesn't mean that we should sit back and say, well, I guess I can't have an opinion. But what I try to do is recognize, one, the success rate of the people in charge. Two, their success rate compared to mine in doing this stuff. Three, the fact that I have maybe 1 or 2%, as all of us do, of the information involved in what is actually going on. And so while I might, based off the information that I know and understand, form ideas, thoughts, and opinions, I recognize how little information I actually have. I'm realistic about it. You turn on the television and the radio and any other format in which everybody's an expert. Everyone is an expert. And I believe it would do us all good to understand that, yes, everyone can have an opinion. Everyone has the right to an opinion. But recognize what we're dealing with here. It's like having a puzzle, 1,000-piece or a 10,000-piece puzzle, and all of it is picture side down except for maybe 7 pieces, and sitting around and debating what the picture is. Yeah, sure, we can all have an opinion. But we have to be measured in recognizing how little we actually know at the same time. And we tend to not do that so often. I do find to a degree it's somewhat liberating when you accept that, because it's there's a degree of faith that goes into it. Not blind loyalty. There's a difference. But faith, if you recognize, as I do, I've assessed that Trump has earned the right to say, hey, you got to trust me on this one. Does it mean that it's going to turn out famously? But he does have a degree of success with these things. Some of the people criticizing him, mocking the way that the, quote, negotiations are. I mean, this is how negotiations work. These are the same people that negotiated us into a North Korea with nuclear weapons. I mean, think about the negotiations that so many of these critics that are blasting Trump have patted themselves on the back because they, negotiated with North Korea not to have nuclear weapons, which resulted directly in North Korea having nuclear weapons. Negotiated during the Obama administration with Iran not to attempt to advance their nuclear ambitions. We negotiated ourselves into paying them billions of dollars of pallets of cash that then helped them advance their nuclear ambitions. The so-called experts that love to criticize Trump's negotiations have always resulted in the enemy getting further ahead than they would have if we hadn't bothered attempting to negotiate at all. I think it benefits us to keep that in mind with these people. I mean, there's no shame these people have. I would be embarrassed, as I suspect many of you would be as well, to have the track record of their negotiation results or a track record of the negotiations that they have supported and the results that came of those negotiations, to have the audacity to stand up and criticize what's going on now. Are you kidding me? The fact that you are against it suggests that we may be headed in the right direction, given your track record. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Friday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 77. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a chance for rain in the afternoon with a high near 81.
We did get the keyword set up for
Yes,
Will
sir.
Chop House. All right,
Sure
so another day of your chance to win a $400 gift card to Will's Chop House. Steak, seafood, cocktails. They have celebrated 1 year, be it anniversary or birthday. You can see it as either which one you want, but part of their celebration is giving us to give you a chance to win a $400 gift card to have for dinner there. To get yourself registered for that, and we'll do this again tomorrow with another keyword, so you have separate opportunities to enter. It's one. It's just, you're doubling, tripling your chances of winning. What is the word to text?
The word today is CHOP. CHOP.
Okay,
CHOP.
There you go. So text that to the Pyramid Roofing Company text line 447-KSGF to get your entry. And then, again, be sure to listen tomorrow. Have a separate keyword, and that will be an opportunity for you to get registered once again. And then that will be it. I'm guessing Monday or so we'll probably.
Yep, Monday I'll reach out to someone.
Sounds good. I want a great homeloan.com. If you have a home loan need, you got the Carrickers, you got their team. And I mentioned it yesterday, but I do just think it's important when we talk about culture and just how much you can increasingly, as we get this vastness of cultures and people that adopt certain cultures and how they ultimately treat people, and you can really tell a lot. And Alex Carricker last week talking to us about how they had now, their I want a great homeloan.com, and just the years that I've been, even back when Don Carricker was, before he was retired, and Alex and Anthony took things over, they would oftentimes find themselves housed with different companies in terms of the loan providers and so forth. And they would sometimes change in order to be able to provide better product options for you all. And the last company they were with before this one, they said, hey, listen, we got feedback from you all, and our own experiences just was not the culture we were comfortable with. And I'm sure many of you can probably imagine to some degree what that means in terms of culture. And so they decided to move elsewhere. It wasn't a protest thing. It was just about what is a good fit for them and what they feel is a good and appropriate and the best fit of culture that they wanted to be part of the working relationship that they have with you when it comes to home loans. And just increasingly, I think that becomes more and more important. And it's why I'm not talking about rates or terms or those financial things when I mention this to you, because I think it's just as, if not even more important. So for any of your home loan needs, refinancing, reverse mortgages, I want a great homeloan.com, because you do. Yesterday I gave some thoughts on the meltdown that people were having over Trump's tweet directed at the terrorist regime of Iran and ending their civilization. And I try to be consistent. And because I go to deliberate lengths to be consistent, when I see these vast shifts in, or I guess just vast inconsistencies at times in culture, then it just really stands out to me. And I've noted there's almost this, it's a bit of to me, form of virtue signaling. I love and support Donald Trump, but I don't support, they've got to put that little thing in front of it there, and this is just unacceptable. I've listened to people, most of which are Trump supporters, for years, mock people who couldn't handle, quote, mean tweets from Donald Trump. And then I see some of those very people that are upset because of a mean tweet to terrorists. This is perplexing to me. I mean, how long have people on the left been mocked because they would have meltdowns over Donald Trump's mean tweets? And how often did we say during the Biden years, I sure could use some mean tweets right now, as we dealt with, tens of millions of illegals deliberately poured into our communities, thousands of innocent people murdered because of it unnecessarily, tens or hundreds of thousands of human beings, mostly children, human trafficked, Chinese communists being allowed to spy on our country. You just go down the complete unnecessary and some would argue deliberate tanking of our economy. And in the midst of that, saying, I sure could use some mean tweets right now, sort of mocking the left, how they would prefer to see our country go straight to hell than deal with mean tweets. And then Donald Trump makes a mean tweet to terrorists running a country. And suddenly I'm seeing people, including elected Republicans, that now we're upset about a mean tweet because it's at terrorists. Well, no, because he said wipe out an entire civil. Okay, so because he, quote, said. This has been one of the major complaints of people on the left during the entirety of Trump's existence as somebody either running for president or president because of what he, quote, said. Trump said this. Trump tweeted this. Trump posted this. Meanwhile, those people get mocked because that's really what you're concerned about, what he quote said, as opposed to what results are actually occurring because of his policies. I mean, and so I find myself a bit perplexed when I see suddenly some of the same people who were part of ridiculing the left for being upset at his postings all of a sudden upset because he told terrorists that he was going to wipe out their civilization. A mean tweet. You see how it's confusing to me? Oh, one of the reasons that I did touch on this yesterday is to try and explain, because listen, I understand that oftentimes context is missing deliberately. This is Trump specifically talking to the terrorists running Iran, not the Iranian people. Those are two separate civilizations. These are civilizations in conflict with one another. That is why the civilization of the Iranian citizens that don't want Islamic rule have been marching in the streets, have been dying, oftentimes knowing that they were going to walk into gunfire, giving up their lives, and knowing that they could be executed, that they could be tortured, to made an example of, that they're putting their own family's life on the line. This is why you had Iranian soccer players torn as to whether or not to go back to Iran. It's a horrifically repressive civilization suppressing their civilization. But their families were still back there, so they were threatened. I mean, and these are, in Iran, are two separate civilizations at war with one another. One has had the upper hand for 47 years. Because they've had all the guns. Trump has been very clear in his messaging through social media that he is deliberately recognizing two separate civilizations in Iran. Like back when he told the Iranian people, we will come lock and loaded. If the regime starts slaughtering your people. Donald Trump's mean tweet was specifically to the terrorists. And I can understand the average person perhaps not recognizing that. I get that. But some of these people that are put on television or that write columns that are put up as experts that the masses are supposed to listen to, go to for information, that either don't recognize these differences or are unwilling to explain them, should not be put on a platform in which people are told, here's someone you should listen to. I saw, it's somewhat amusing because and they're generally Iranian, those who have fled Iran, a lot of them are in Canada, some are here in the States, a lot of them in Europe. And many of them have taken to social media to mock the pearl-clutching reaction to Donald Trump's threat to the terrorist regime to end their civilization by noting Iran's national motto is death to America. All of America. Every American. That is that's a greeting in Iran. That is just an expected slogan tagged on anything and everything from the people running our government. And when Trump says back to him, all right, well, we'll just end your civilization if you don't comply. Suddenly that is what's offensive? I mean, it's just crazy to me that people who have long not only mocked the left, but even enjoyed the fact that the left would melt down over a mean tweet. But then when Trump sends one to the terrorist, suddenly some of those same people are like, well, now that's just a step too far. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. I got to get a traffic update. Let's see. Pyramid Roofing Company text line message 447 KSGF. And then I swear that the Republican Party. The Republican Party. Let me give you this headline from a Federalist piece. Worst thing GOP could do for midterms is embrace amnesty. So, of course, they're doing that. And it's a handful of Republicans that have reached, yes, this is not a repeat from the past instances of Republicans thinking it's a good idea to reach across the aisle and come up with an amnesty plan for certain illegals and then to claim it's not amnesty. It's happening again. Yes, today's date, April 9th, 2026. Almost as if they fear Democrats are proving themselves to be so nutty that Republicans might, by default, squeak out the retention of leadership and power in a majority in Congress, and so they're trying to figure out a way to piss it away. First, let's do traffic.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Friday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 77. And for Saturday, mostly sunny with a chance of rain in the afternoon with a high near 81.
Happy hour tomorrow, Vineyard Market, 4 to 6. Let's see, half-price apps while we're out there. And buy one, get one on beer and some wines. And so some little extra deals for the old KSGF crew out there from Luke and Heather Davis. And big thank you to them. And looking forward to seeing, hopefully, a bunch of you out there. It's always a nice time for me to be able to actually hang out with you guys. And, you know, I know we're out every Friday doing the show, but I don't really get a chance to chat with you so much other than maybe a 90-second break, and I just don't find that quite as fulfilling. So that happy hour tomorrow, Vineyard Market, 4 to 6. A text message coming in the Pyramid Roofing Company text line saying the only thing that I believe, in my opinion, is unacceptable is I think that they're giving them too long to open up the strait. Now, I don't want to sound as if I'm contradicting comments that I made earlier. So I do want to, again, specify, I don't have any sort of problem with anyone evaluating what's going on, having opinions, having thoughts. I think, though, it should always be measured against the knowledge that we really don't know everything that is going on. And so our opinion is, in all likelihood, based off of extremely partial information. Now, and I'd like to think that I measure all of that out because I, too, immediately think, my immediate thought is, I wouldn't do any ceasefire at all. That's my immediate thought. Because why? Terrorists always use ceasefires in order to regroup, recalibrate, that they don't cease fire in goodwill. This is something that we have learned. Now, I measure that, however, against the fact that I don't know everything that's going on. Donald Trump has a pretty good track record of this stuff. And I know it sounds very repetitive, but I'm just telling you the motions I go through mentally on this stuff. You know, so often with Trump, what happens is these things are going on, and then after the fact, it's almost this sort of black swan situation where something that you never could have imagined was going on behind the scenes, like, oh, wow, that was amazing. We mention almost offhand while all of this stuff is being evaluated. And I say we, the collective voice, media and so forth, that, oh, yeah, and by the way, we don't actually know whom it is that's running things. We don't know who. That's a pretty big deal not to know. We gloss over that as if it is not really necessarily relevant who it is that the Trump administration is having these discussions with, when it's extremely relevant. It seems to be pretty accepted that the, quote, current leader may not even be alive, at the very least, is not fully functioning, hence the fact that he hasn't issued any statements, he has not been seen anywhere. It's said that he was severely injured in one of those major bombings that took out so many others in the leadership. So even if he is alive, we don't know that that's the person that he's talking with, or the person that Trump or the Trump administration is talking with. If it's a collective of people, I have no clue. And when I realize that, I realize it's very difficult to make a fully informed assessment as to whether or not this is a good idea, because anytime you're talking about negotiations, this is what, of course, Trump knows, It's about who's across the table from you. It's about reading them. What are their motivations? What is it that they want? What are their desires? And you and I and everyone that is talking as an expert on television or writing op-ed pieces on this, we don't even know the answer to that. And so I recognize, as again, my instinct is, well, this is almost negotiating with terrorists. We've agreed to put, this 2-week ceasefire as long as this and that, and terrorists have used that sort of tactic in the past in order to buy time, in order to regroup and so forth. They're like, wait a minute. I don't know who this other person is that Trump is, or the U.S. is negotiating with. So how can I make any sort of assessment, ultimately, not even knowing with whom it is that the negotiation's going on? Because that makes a heck of a big difference. So, anyhow, I completely, the person who texted in about the, opening the strait and time frame and stuff and having concerns of that, 100% understand that without question. But like I said, I also know I don't even know who we're talking to over there. All right, coming up, worst thing GOP could do for midterm is embrace amnesty, so of course they're doing it. It does appear as if Republicans, there are some that are worried that maybe they'll squeak out a victory and not lose the majority in the House, and so they are trying to finish off any chance whatsoever the Republicans have of retaining power by getting a couple dozen Republicans reaching across the aisle and doing amnesty, while all the time telling us, what is it that they've told us in the past when they've done this or attempt to do this? Oh, no, it's not amnesty. That's not what it is. Okay. I want to read this piece Sean Fleetwood has put together in the Federalist, because I find this so, it's unfortunately not perplexing, but frustrating. I just don't know that I can stomach my way through talking about it unless I'm just reading it to you. And so it reads as follows. You almost have to admire how far some Republicans are willing to go to lose the 2026 midterms and ultimately the country. Throughout their recent 2-week vacation, several GOP lawmakers have been making the media rounds to tout, quote, bipartisan legislation they claim will finally solve America's broken immigration system. There's just one teeny, weensy, important detail that somehow gets brushed aside. The bill would allow millions of illegal aliens to continue living in the United States. Sponsored by Representative Maria Elvira Salazar of Florida, Mike Lawler of New York, and other Republican lawmakers, the so-called Dignity Act permits, quote, certain long-time undocumented immigrants to earn legal status without amnesty or a path to citizenship so that foreign nationals who broke U.S. immigration laws can have an opportunity, according to a Salazar press release. The measure would notably create a dignity program. Gosh, it almost sounds like Dreamers. A dignity program, which the Florida Congresswoman's office describes as a 7-year earned legal status program allowing undocumented immigrants to live and work legally with renewable status based on good conduct and restitution. Without getting too far off the beaten path here, last I checked, we already had a system where people can come to this country legally. The revived push to pass the bill appears to be part of sponsors' recently announced Dignity Tour to rally support for the measure and get it through Congress. It's bad enough that the legislation sponsor felt compelled to give it a description and dumb name like the Dignity Act, but it's even worse that its promoters like Salazar are trying to gaslight Republican voters into thinking that the measure is anything but one giant amnesty package. America is either a nation with defined borders and laws, or it is not. There is no in between. But rather than fulfill their 2024 campaign pledge to ensure the former, it's clear some Republicans are content with handing out amnesty to foreign lawbreakers like candy on Halloween. Such a proposal isn't just asinine because it cripples America's sovereignty and long-term survival as a nation, it's also incredibly moronic from a political standpoint. Aside from the one big beautiful bill that they never effectively sold to voters, Republicans have virtually nothing to show for their congressional majorities. The Senate GOP still hasn't passed the Save America Act. Rogue judges continue to go unpunished. Many of Trump's executive orders haven't been codified into law, and other conservative priorities remain completely untouched. So exactly what are voters, including those who identify as Republicans, supposed to vote for this fall? Amnesty? More GOP obstruction of the conservative policies they were promised but are now told aren't possible even with the Republican majority? The headwinds Republicans are facing this fall became evident on Tuesday night when Democrats continued their domination of special and off-year elections since the 2024 contest. In Wisconsin, leftists easily expanded their majority of the state Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Democrats in Georgia significantly overperformed in the special House race to fill the seat left open by former Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. The dynamic at play is one that's existed for decades. While voters punish Democrats for abusing power when they have it, they punish Republicans for never using it to begin with. Shilling for amnesty is not going to give the GOP a fighting chance this fall, and neither is repeatedly stonewalling the policies they campaigned on. Only implementing a conservative agenda that addresses the needs of the electorate will. Should Republicans ignore this reality and decline to act on it, they should prepare to be demolished at the ballot box this November, and by every measure, they will have deserved it. And you can mark my words. Should that occur, they will not take responsibility for it. They will blame Donald Trump. They will claim it was because of Donald Trump's policies. They will claim that I think this is what we're going to see occur is Republicans are sabotaging any opportunity they have to retain or to keep the power in the House. And they will turn against Donald Trump. They will say that it's his fault. And then the last 2 years of his administration will be Republicans just going back to the good old days of the Mitt Romneys, of the John McCains, of the loser Republican Party. And this attempt to provide amnesty while saying it's not amnesty, how many times do we have to go through this? How many times do Republicans have to lose because they're out there disenfranchising their own voter base by pushing for something that is a Democrat wish list while telling us that's not what they're doing? Pushing for amnesty while calling it something else is no different than Democrats telling us that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy. Changing the words does not change the reality. Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, all of your outdoor living needs, your lighting needs for your home that can make a huge difference. I know it certainly did with ours, just absolute night and day when it comes to the overall look and appeal of your home. And there's nothing like, still, after all the time that we've had that uplighting on our home, which is a relatively inexpensive way to make such an improvement. Not just in the visuals, but even security, because people don't like to prowl around a house when there's spotlights on it. But, you turn that corner onto your neighborhood and everyone else is dark, and then you're just awash and light and lit up, highlighting, just your home. It's such a huge difference. So whether it's that or drainage issues, landscaping, hardscaping, if you want it done by the absolute best, Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, you can find them at hunterhardscapes.com and also under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. Tomorrow we do have not only our happy hour at Vineyard Market with half-price app deals, buy one, get one on beer and some wines, but we will be having the morning show, as we always do, at Scramblers, and we're going to have on hand tickets to see MSU baseball take on Mizzou next Wednesday. It's also Military and First Responder Appreciation Game. Folds of Honor is going to have multiple events that day in order to honor military, so it's going to be a day filled with all sorts of incredible activities and a very special game. Not to mention the game itself, MSU against Mizzou. So if you do want to attend, just stop by. We'll have tickets on hand. You won't have to register or anything. We have a certain amount, and first come, first serve on that. Springfield Talk 1041, and welcome to the show, everyone. Hour number 2 on a Thursday. My name is Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. She's the best ever. If you're looking to buy a home, sell a home, have any questions about doing any or all of it, maybe at the same time, how scary is that? You come across your dream home, maybe it's that house that you've always passed by. I thought one day if that ever goes up for sale, and after church you're heading out to go eat for lunch, and you drive by it, and oh my gosh, there's a for sale sign, and you're so excited about it, but then you think, we haven't even thought about selling our home. Oh my gosh, we have so much to do. There's no way we can get all this done in time. If you got Emily Johnson on your side, don't write it off. She's made the comment before, she has yet to have someone have to move in with her in a scenario in which selling the home and buying a new one is all happening at the same time. And so that may seem so daunting that it prevents you from taking that step. While you may ultimately decide not to, don't not inquire about it and find out what all that entails. That's what Emily Johnson can do for you again. And maybe you're just doing a simple sell, or you're just looking to shift from being a renter and paying someone else's mortgage to actually paying your own with a buy. She can help you with all that as well. Home buying, home selling, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Hey everyone, it's Christy Fulnecki.
Hello.
How do you do? Just great.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Happy Easter season.
Yes, Easter season. Happy to you, too. I said those words out of order. You weren't here last Thursday.
Yes,
I mentioned
I
it was because of your Samantha receiving
Yes.
this. So tell us about that whole event.
I know. It was amazing. And I was just saying, she received a citizenship award. I have to get the name of it. I'll get it in a second.
Did it come with any gift certificates?
No, I don't think it did.
I always think it sucks when you get an award and there's not like a $50 gift certificate to Chili's or something.
No, it was just
there should
really
always be a gift card.
nice. Like, it was, I think, the Future of Oklahoma award or something. It was a really nice glass, thing. But I was just saying earlier, it was kind of funny because she introduced me to the governor and the senators and everybody, and I thought, this is so strange. This is like opposite of
Usually
being in Missouri. But it's funny, a lot of the people in public office there, they said, now when is Missouri going to honor her? We're doing this in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But it was really nice. But Emily Campagna was the
love her.
Yes, she was a guest speaker. And
I feel like
she's
I feel like she's one of those people that you see and think, oh, she's not as tall as I thought she would be. Is she?
She's a little bit, yeah. I mean, she's about normal height.
Oh,
I think she's not really short. I mean, she had heels on.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't get to talk to her. We saw in the beginning with Samantha, they were trying to show us where we're supposed to sit. And I mean, there are probably 1,000 people there, all the political and business leaders in Oklahoma. And I think it's called OCPA. It's a public affair. It's a conservative organization.
Yeah.
And so they gave out, Samantha got an award. There's a boy that got an award, and then the governor and his wife. And so we saw her in the beginning, and then, but when they explained what happened with Samantha, and I mean, they didn't really have to because everybody knew what was going on. I mean, at our table, we had a couple of state senators, and, of course, everybody knew about it. And so they kind of talked about her story, and then she got a standing ovation. And I thought, that is incredible. If you don't think you can make a difference,
Yeah.
and you're just a college student.
Did she have to give a little speech when she?
No, she didn't. But she was so nervous because she didn't know, what I mean.
Right.
Here she is, 21 years old, and she's in a room of, 1,000 of, at least in this state, of the leaders of the state. And I was just really proud of her, because I always tell my kids, you can make a difference, but you never know when how that's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And and for someone that I've always said is, she's pre-med. She's not political at all. I mean, she's paying more attention to politics now, but I mean, she doesn't even know really.
Right. It's not her passion.
Yeah, it's not something that she's really interested in, but she's always been strong in her faith. So when this blew up in 4 days, became international, I was like, this is God's will for you. So
I imagine she goes, so she's at this, if she's being honored by the entire state, you've got all of these very high profile people giving her standing ovations and these awards and everything. And then just days later, she's back at home, the holidays, and the total chaos of the Fulnecki home. She's like, yep, this is This is about normal. Yeah. Brought me right back down to reality.
That always
All the
gets my mind,
siblings and everything. Like, yeah, okay, now I remember where
I
it
know.
came from.
Well, I mean, and that always kept me humble too, because they would always be like, "So you have a job?" My kids, or "Oh, you were in the political position," and they just say stuff to you, and so it
Right.
totally keeps you
Yeah.
really humble. But and so and then I was amazed too that afterwards, and so she was excited because Emily Campagno, her favorite as far as all the
Mm.
Fox News
Yeah. Yeah.
broadcasters and stuff. And so Emily, during when Samantha was being honored, she was at the governor's table, and they both stood up and they were clapping, and Emily was smiling at her and
Yeah.
everything. So she thought that was so cool.
That
She
is
was,
cool.
yeah, she was really excited. Um, but the number of young people that came up to her, and everybody, these younger people got pictures with her, and I thought that was really amazing. And they
Yeah.
and they quite a few of those kids, and I assume most of them, they're conservative. That they said, this happened to me, something similar happened. There were quite
Sure.
a
Oh,
number of
I
people
bet.
just in that 1,000 group
Mhm.
that came up to her, and that they said, I know it's hard, but thank you at whatever university they were at. That's helped us, stand up during
Yeah.
our class and give our opinion and not go along with what the professor says. So it
Well,
was
that's very
really,
cool.
yeah, it was
Very
really
cool.
cool. Yeah.
Well, and I'm
I was
sure
really,
was everyone home Easter, right? All the kids.
yeah, they were all,
Yeah, that's
yeah, they
nice.
were all home, and went to the top of the rock down there. And
I
that's
love
so
that.
fun.
This is crazy. I have like there's been numerous times I was supposed to go there and I've not been there.
Really.
Yeah,
It's
which is
incredible.
so crazy to me. There's no reason. I don't know why. I don't know.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And the chapel there that overlooks the
Oh yeah,
lake
I
and
know.
stuff is
From what I
beautiful.
hear.
Yeah. And just beware if you have teenage or college age girls, they take a lot of pictures there
Oh.
with all the
Oh
scenery in
sure.
the
Yeah.
background.
Christy Fulnecki with us. More coming up. We're going to get the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Friday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 77. And for Saturday, mostly sunny with a chance of rain in the afternoon with a high near 81.
All right, I'm really today down on stupid people.
Oh
And
yeah.
and I shouldn't even say stupid people, though they do get encompassed in my scorn this
You know,
morning.
it's
But
so funny we always talk about this
right.
subject. Last time
But
we talked
here
about the costumes and
but this is what really aggravates me. And it isn't just stupid people that do this. They see a headline and they'll even in their minds be like, I don't understand this, but then they immediately post it and start ranting about it without knowing anything about it. And so let me give you here's the New York Post headline, and I've already seen people this morning posting on it. It's New York Post: eligible young men will automatically be registered for U.S. military draft later this year. And I'm seeing this posted, and this is being this is being contextualized, and well, this is all about Iran, and the draft is going to start up, and this can't be happening. This is okay. First off, this may come as a shock to a lot of females out there. When you turn 18 and you're a guy, you have to register
yes.
in order to be eligible for the draft. It's called
Yeah.
selective service. This
Yeah.
is the law. This, in an effort to streamline and make government smaller, was something signed by Trump saying it's just automatically done. Now,
Right.
we don't have to pay staff to, like as an 18-year-old, you no longer have to go. I think I did it at the courthouse. I don't even remember where it was that I had it done. And they've tried to make it more accessible over the years. I think when it came to student loan stuff, at one point you could register that way. This simply streamlined it to make it less expensive so that instead of telling people that they turn 18, you have to go do it at some office or here, there, it's just automatically done.
Right.
This is nothing new other than it's making it easier. But already...
So the hysterical.
Well,
yeah,
yes. Yes, and Trump, how can he get the draft? He's drafting people for Iran. That is not what this is. And like I said, I fully understand. And I don't, especially if you're not a guy, if you're a gal and you didn't know that guys have to do this, have to legally register when they turn 18 in order to be drafted, I 100% understand that. That's not a bad thing to not know that. But it's this seeing the headlines and then just going berserk without going, well, first off, let me read the article.
I was going to say,
because the
before
article
reading the
explains,
article,
read the freaking article. Because oftentimes it will, now with the media, oftentimes it is misleading. But the one article that is being shared a lot is the New York Post. It explains in there that this is not any.
It's like 2 more clicks for
It's
these
just
people.
so that's what I just get so frustrated at. People mouthing off about stuff that usually they even acknowledge they don't know anything about. I talked about this a few weeks ago. What was it? Trump. There was something that. Oh, it was the Greenland, when Trump first started talking about Greenland.
Uh-oh.
And people would start off their posts like, I don't understand this Greenland thing, followed by this diatribe on what horrible and awful it is and how can Trump be doing this, after their opening sentence fully acknowledged they had no idea what they were talking about. I'm like, why don't you stop after statement 1 of, I don't know anything about this, and look into it, do a little bit of research before you declare yourself an expert and start going off on social media about it. It just drives me nuts.
Well, because I don't have anything else to do.
Maybe part of it's because the nature of my job is to do crap tons of reading and research before I talk about stuff.
Yeah,
and then I
and
see
all
people
of it.
on social media and then by virtue of other idiots that are, this is usually on the left, obviously, that they validate them, they cheer them on, and then make them feel as if they're validated in what they're saying, and it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, and most of us would see that and we don't even read it. But the thing about this is just a weird thing with New York Post. When you're on social media, you have to go, a few clicks to actually read the article. So if it was a New York Post, then probably the people didn't even read the article. Did you see this?
Just spit on them. That's what I say.
I know. I mean, I can't. When social media first started, and you had liberals. It was hard not to make comments, but I mean, that's pretty much like a lot of them just sit on there and stew. So I don't even pay any attention to it.
It's such a cliche, but it's so true. It's particularly people on the left politically. They create this dark hole for themselves. It reminds me of, you'll see the story about, like, oh, a wellness visit occurs, and they go to this house, and it's some person that lives alone that's totally depressed. They have the curtains drawn. It's just like you walk in and you just feel the depression. That's what social media has done for a lot of people on the left.
Yeah.
They've drawn the curtains. They look for reasons to be mad. They get on there in order to learn about what horrible thing the Nazi Donald Trump has done so that they can get angry and mad.
Make these crazy,
I know.
crazy
And
TikTok videos and stuff.
it's like,
Which are permanent, by the way.
I've gotten to the point with my personal social media. I've started just deleting friends, not because of political differences, but those that are just constantly negative. Like, I just don't need that.
I know.
I would
yeah.
much rather just see kids getting hurt, corgis, animals spitting on people, like, these funny videos.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I would just, if I'm going to go to social media just to get away,
Just like watch reels.
just
or
watch
stuff. Yeah.
stuff or cooking stuff, things that aren't this just negativity. And it's the fact that people deliberately craft through their usage social media to reinforce their negativity and to just be miserable. It's crazy.
These liberal women are just like so crazy on social media.
They're the
Did
worst.
you see that story about that? I think she's running for state rep in Georgia and did the TikTok.
Yes.
Which one?
She is whacked out.
Oh, I know.
And so she was saying that when the Democrats win the majority, that she's gonna, which, I mean, I'm like, okay, you're running for state office. So for number one, you don't even know what you're supposed to be doing because you're in state government. That all of the MAGA supporters, that they're gonna not have access to the internet.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
And
that they
so-
should be banned from the internet. Well, Gavin Newsom's wife, she's out there saying the same thing, essentially, in a more sophisticated way.
hear that.
We played the audio of this yesterday, that she said it's her responsibility, along with Gavin Newsom in position of power, to curb right-wing influence on the internet because it's bad. And she said it's our responsibility to institute our culture into the internet.
And they've already tried all this during COVID too.
Well, and they were successful.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
Trump got in there, and then there were, the Gateway pundit finally won out in a lawsuit. I think the Justice Department settled because they were censored by the Biden administration. And so all these people on the left who cry about authoritarianism, Trump is the one that lifted the chains off of the censorship, while it's the Democrats that even are talking to this day about there's a Democrat, I've got this story, he was talking specifically even people in the military, making a list of people that are following Trump's illegal orders because once we're in power, we are going to come after you people.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, that's particularly when you start targeting the military. That is what authoritarians do. When they take power, they
Yeah, right, right.
they purge politically. They say, people in the military as increasingly. I think that there is a real lack of appreciation for what Democrats are laying the groundwork for as they're out there talking
They're not
about
even keeping it secret.
they're openly accusing people in the military of illegal wars, of carrying out illegal actions. I think that there are a lot of people in the military that are going to be very surprised whenever they start getting rounded up by these Democrats, because that's what authoritarian regimes do. They come in, they take over, and then they start taking the military generals out that weren't loyal to the right people. I mean, it's psychotic, but they're openly talking about doing it.
And you know what? That's what Republicans are supposed to be talking about. They're not supposed to be talking about the stupid amnesty stuff. I mean, I am just sometimes I think what what's our party doing?
Who are normal people supposed to vote for?
That's right.
I mean,
I think Joe Rogan yesterday, or a couple of days ago, said something like, I don't even recognize any of the parties. Like, who am I supposed to follow now?
Outside of the Freedom Caucus,
that's
actually does. But their biggest obstacle is the establishment Republican Party.
And like we were saying earlier, why do you have to be a part of a group, Freedom Caucus? Everybody should be that. Everybody should vote the way that they do. Because that's what the majority of Americans didn't want illegals here. We don't want taxes. We want to have freedom. We all this other stuff. we don't want to have all these lockdowns and our restrictions and our freedom taken away. Well, I mean, there are a lot of things, and so only there's a small minority in each, in the national government and in our state governments, because they all have freedom caucuses. So, like, you have 6 people or something in your state that believe
Oh, I know.
something that represents you.
I
I'm
mean,
just
I
like, so
it
there's so many things that are so scary.
you'll see like in Missouri a lot of politicians that they're Republican and they've been in there a long time and they'll campaign and they're like, I fought for smaller government and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is it? Our budget has doubled in 10 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that doesn't mean those people aren't for smaller government, but doesn't seem like you've been that effective. I mean, it's this is a veto-proof red state, yet the size of our government continues to explode, particularly when it comes to spending. And
Yeah.
so I've long said, if you are a person who genuinely believes in smaller government and less spending, who are you supposed to vote for?
I know. That's
Where
what
do
I'm
you
saying.
go?
Like, I
What do
don't
you do?
understand. And even if you didn't even believe in all that stuff, to listen to this woman in Georgia that you would think, there's pretty conservative, to say that the people that disagree with her can't have access to the internet and that they have to be silenced and they have no voice to speak up.
Well,
Like, if you're a Republican, it doesn't matter if you're in the Freedom Caucus or not. You should say something about that.
Democrats are well that but Democrats are, well, and to be clear, the person you're talking about is a Democrat or running.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
a
yeah,
Democrat.
right.
I don't want people to be confused because
Oh,
you're
yeah,
saying
okay.
Republicans aren't speaking out loudly enough about how Democrats
Yeah,
are trying to do this stuff.
yeah.
But this is the same party that argued that you should go to jail or not be allowed to go to the hospital even if you had a heart attack if you didn't get the COVID jab.
Right.
I mean, these people are psychotic authoritarians, and then again, they'll stand out with a "No King" sign about Donald Trump.
Yeah,
What upside down world do you live in?
but my point of saying that is because the last hour you were talking about
Mhm.
Republicans focusing. I mean,
Right, yeah.
And
I know what you were saying, but
Yeah.
for people that maybe just tuned in, I just
Yeah.
wanted to give them that
it's just,
context.
I mean, running for an office and you're focused on amnesty and I'm just, when you were talking about that last hour, I was just furious because there's so many other things you'd be talking about.
Well, and that
Like,
Mike Johnson would allow that to happen.
I know. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff is going to come roaring back with DEI and all this mutilating our kids, all this stuff that we fought against.
I mean, Mike Johnson's such a failure, and I'm sure in his mind you got to understand the districts they're in, but you got to understand that affects the mood of all Republican voters. And when the Republican voters that you desperately need to get out in the midterm elections see that there's, once again, here we go, a contingency of Republicans that are crossing the aisle to push amnesty with Democrats while telling us it's not.
I know.
I mean, of course it is. Why do you think Democrats support it, you idiots? I mean, we're not idiots. You're idiots for thinking that we're idiots. Idiots.
What's your favorite word today?
Christy Fildecki with us more in moments. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Friday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 77. And for Saturday, mostly sunny with a chance of rain in the afternoon with a high near 81. And the Pyramid Roofing Company, we've got another round of storms rolling through the Ozarks next week, some of which may be severe. And I just wanted to remind you once again, if you experience any type of storm damage to your roof, make sure that you go with a trusted roofing professional that will have your best interest in mind. And I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. They offer emergency tarping services if you need it. They offer free roof inspections, and they offer discounts for our military and our first responders on new roof installs. So if you do experience storm damage, make sure that you go with the best and schedule that free roof inspection with Josh. Now, you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
You're talking about emergency tarping. In my mind, I envision a scenario in which Pyramid Roofing is out and it starts to rain.
And they're like, no.
Yeah. Well, and so it's a new crew member, like, I'll get the tarps. They're like, no, not those. Over here. And there's some behind glass. It's like, in case of emergency, break glass. Like,
honestly,
these are the emergency tarps.
No, that is exactly what happens.
That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. We have happy hour tomorrow at Vineyard Market in Ozark. Would love for everyone to come out, including you, Christy Fulnecki. 4 to 6, half hour. Yeah, I know. It's fun. It's a great time.
The weather was great.
Have price appetizers and buy one, get one on beer and some wines. And then want to mention also Will's Chop House celebrating a year, and they're giving away a $400 gift card. If you want to get registered for that, text the word CHOP, CHOP, to the Pyramid Roofing Company text line, which is 417-447-KSGF, and that will get you registered for a $400 gift card.
And I'll try to be there.
Some good eating.
And
Yeah.
if the judge will let me out of court, I can do that.
You just invite the whole courtroom. Like, come on, everyone.
Taking a field trip.
Like, Judge, can we leave? I have happy hours. Like, you're out of order. Like, you're out of order.
And you
Come
need
on
some
to Vineyard
wine.
Market. Yeah.
And a cigar.
It's like everyone's impressions about what it's like being in court.
My knowledge of what it's like to be in court is a combination of Law and Order and night courts. The old original night courts.
That's like when Rob says sidebar all the time.
Yeah.
Like, they don't just say sidebar.
In my mind, they always say, I'll allow it, McCoy. That's what I'll allow it, but I'm keeping my eye on you, McCoy. I imagine that happens in every court case. Oh, I was talking to you yesterday, about you yesterday. I was talking with my mom, and she was mentioning that she was up on the square in Carthage, and how they went down in the basement. She was like, I don't even know that I knew they had a basement, but she mentioned the fact that she laughed. She goes, there's still like an old elevator with an old woman that runs it. And I said, yeah. I said, I know that because Christy sometimes is over there, and she laughs about You almost think it's a novelty. Like, well, isn't that neat? They're trying to give some historical context here. It's like, nope, that's just how it's always been.
Unless you're in a hurry, number one, which I always am, or you're doing a trial, or when the elevator goes out, because there was a tornado that hit there last year or something, and the elevator was out, and you had to carry all of your trial stuff all the way up the stairs, and then, it's an interesting place.
Yeah. Well, when I told my mom when I was in high school, there was an older gentleman that ran the elevator. And for people that don't, it's not an elevator with the buttons, it's a big cage. Unless it's changed.
No, it's totally.
And it's like this thing, this big switch thing they throw. Yeah. But when I was in high school, the guy who, when you got in, he sat on a stool. And then he'd close the cage and flip the big lever or whatever, and then the weights would pull the elevator up or down. And he had a little black and white TV that was in there that he would watch also.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing.
Who runs it? I like her, but she has a lot of information about the town there.
Oh, I'm sure.
If you want to know about Carthage, go get on the elevator in the courthouse. You'll learn a lot of.
So I've got this story that I came across in the Daily Mail out of the UK, and it was posted yesterday as an exclusive, and I thought this is crazy, particularly given I've yet to see any local stories on this. So
This is not about me.
no, it's
Please
not everything. Yeah.
Because I was some article in the UK. That's why I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I hope you're not gonna surprise me.
Well, it caught my eye because I'm one of those. I'm not huge into like crime podcasts, but I like 48 Hours and Dateline. I like those.
Oh,
The only thing I don't like is when you watch one and then you realize at the end it's not solved. That drives me nuts.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
how. I remember as a kid, I loved unsolved mysteries. That would drive me nuts today. I need to know what happened. In fact, I feel like there should be a disclaimer at the beginning of those things, just so you know you're not going to get closure on this. That way I can just exit out. And so one of the stories that I want to say I saw in 48 Hours was for about a 14, I think she was 13, 14 years old, lived in Arizona. I want to say she lived with her uncle, and she just up and vanished. And just couldn't find her. Didn't know where she was. And I think there was a custody thing that was going on at the same time, but it was just one of those weird, just up and completely disappeared. And I think after a period of time, people assume, well, this child is dead, and
right, yeah.
and oftentimes Arizona as the backdrop, you think vast areas and who knows where the body was put. Well, there's whomever is sheriff in that county in Arizona now was not sheriff at the time, because this was back in the 90s, I think, that the disappearance occurred. And did sort of the cold case file thing. They have a little cold case division, and every so often open up a new one, and this was an unsolved one. And so the new sheriff, just kind of utilizing social media and some of the photos that they had. And I don't know if the AI was used, but did just a little bit of investigating just to see if maybe find any additional clues that might lead to solving the case. And found that she was not only dead, but alive and married and living here in Springfield with a family.
What?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I think I found it crazy that this has not, best I could tell, hit any of the local media outlets yet. And the first one, like I said, Daily Mail. Now, I looked up her name on Facebook, and there was a site dedicated to looking for her, and there had been a posting just the day prior saying she's been found, but it didn't give a lot of information. And then I saw a couple of, I think, local news stories from that Arizona.
Yeah, but not here. I haven't heard anything
but not
about
here.
it.
Now, of course, I'm sure that they're working on some
That's
sort
what you
of
call
story.
breaking news here.
But apparently, it sounds like she got at the age of 18 married here, and she's been married, and her husband was interviewed, and they asked him a couple of questions, and he's pretty much deferred to, well, that's something that she's going to have to talk about. But the one thing that the sheriff did say is that she contacted her, and she's 45 now, and said, no, I left. I left deliberately. But
So did she ever contact her parents, or were her parents alive?
I don't think. No, I don't think. It
that's-
sounds as if no one has known, and thus far she hasn't really talked about why she left. I think probably most people would assume she left to get away from someone.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes if you're a 13-year-old runaway, that's why you run away. But anyhow, and I don't know why. This sounds
bizarre.
This is such a dumb thing for me to say, but even though obviously this is her name is public, but I feel like I don't want to say it because clearly she probably doesn't want to be bothered. You know what I mean? And so my instinct, and I am like, there's no need. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously at this point, he's been contacted. His name is like where he works, where she works is in this article. And so it's not secret, but I figured, but why? I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. I just thought, no, people want to find out bad enough, they can just look it up themselves. But yeah, I thought that was just crazy because one, again, I like those sorts of stories, and they almost never turn out that way.
I know.
But then I'm reading through it, and I'm like, wait, Springfield, Missouri? Are you kidding me? I thought that was crazy. But happy ending, I suppose.
Yeah,
I
really.
guess. She seems happy. I looked at her husband's Facebook page. They seem very happy. There was a video of them snorkeling together somewhere and everything.
You kind of went down the rabbit hole on
I
that.
did go down the rabbit hole.
Did you contact him?
No. I figure they probably. Well, I have no idea. They may be like, we don't care.
Ask her to be on the show.
Yeah, well,
she says.
I'd love to, just because I think it's interesting. But you never know. It could be a situation in which they're like, oh gosh, it's been so long. Who cares? Yeah, I'll talk about it. Or leaving for reasons that she hasn't even had to think about for 30 years and certainly doesn't want to start now. And so you just don't know. Anyway.
Or the
Thought it was interesting.
Missing here. Did they ever reopen that?
I think it's always, quote, open.
That is
every once in a while, it seems as if, based off a lead, there will be something done. And in my mind, the last thing that was done was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, where the parking garage at one of the hospitals, they got one of those devices that it uses sound waves in order to see underneath concrete whether or not there are any anomalies, and then I don't really remember much after that.
Oh, okay.
But there have been a couple of people that have said that they knew or that they did it, if I remember right, but nothing real concrete.
Okay.
So there's an update on that. Not nearly as much information for everyone. More with Christy Fulnecki coming up. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki with us.
Yes.
Someone was talking about night court. And
everybody picks up our most important topics.
Yes. You can really gauge what hits hard with the community by the text messages that come in. And one of the text messages said that you would make a good Marky post. Yeah, of course, she played Christine on Night Court. I was thinking Roz, maybe.
Oh,
do you remember Roz?
Oh, can you imagine me being a judge?
I could imagine you being a judge on a television show.
Oh, yeah, I totally would do that.
Judge Judy, not necessarily her personality type. You would be your personality type, but I 100% could see that. Without question.
Judge Janine.
But it would you'd have to tie in the Comanche thing. Comanche court,
Kiki
maybe.
Comanche.
Kiki Comanche's court.
Judge Kiki the Comanche.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a really good show.
Your bailiff could have full garb, like Indian, Native American garb, Comanche garb. Or, you could as well.
And if you lost your case, you would be scalped.
Yeah, that's right. I'd be like, it's Comanche justice.
Yeah, that's right. I could have criminal court. That would be even better.
Yes.
Civil criminal court.
Comanche court.
Files.
Line them. Yeah.
That's right.
This could be a great, you ought to pitch this.
We could.
Who should you pitch it to?
Janine, I could take her spot. She should really be the AG. But I could be a good TV judge, I think.
Yeah. Well, maybe just even a local version. Why not? And then it could get picked up, be syndicated out of Springfield. Maybe Ozark Color 10. Like a
Actually, that would
half-hour
be good.
slot for you. I think I'd watch it.
That's
We
right. I can really tell.
we could promote it.
Oh my gosh, that's actually a really good idea.
Like for the first time in history, a show lasted only 7 minutes on air before it got pulled. Never has a show been canceled before the end of the first episode.
And after she suggested scalping for the punishment, she was removed from the bench.
A spokesperson for the Comanche tribe said that never had they dealt with being so offended by one of their own. Yep. All right. So between the helicopter that we've got designed for you. Remember when you were driving around that little wheelchair thing for a while, and we
was in a wheelchair?
Yeah, we're gonna bedazzle that thing up all Comanche style. You got to walking before we had a chance to do that.
Yeah, that was interesting. Going to court in a wheelchair. Oh man!
Did you have an American flag on it or something, or did we just talk about it?
Oh man!
Sometimes I forget what's real and what's just imaginary, what we talked about doing. Like, no, you remember that time you did, like, no, we just talked about it.
No, I mean, that's, it is a real interesting when you become disabled to see whatever they had to go through. I mean, and I always because I usually have bright colors and very loud and stuff. So I make a presence when I go into court usually. And or when I'm in court, but then being in a wheelchair and me being in a wheelchair, this woman, I think it was Howe County, and it was this really old courtroom, and it had like this, I don't even know what was on the floor. I think it was like the door jam or something. And my person that was driving me, because I couldn't drive.
I remember that gal. There was some
Yeah,
girl.
She me.
Yeah.
Because
she'd have to come in here when you did the show.
Or whatever. And so she couldn't get me through the door. So she was pushing me and court is going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody just like stopped and turned around. There's like 50 people in there.
Client is just thinking, oh my.
Luckily my client was a friend, like she was one of my friends. And so she was dying laughing over there, but she couldn't get me. She was like pushing through the door jam. She was like, I'm really sorry. He was laughing at me. Jeez.
Yep, earning that hourly fee, straight up, legit. Yeah, well,
so that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that sounds like it. No, I remember that, and I remember that girl having to drive you around. Poor thing. I'm sure that's going to be some memory that she holds on to dearly.
Speaking of judges in the judicial system, Sarah and I were just talking about Pam Bondi. I am glad that she's not the AG anymore.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing I look at as a healthy relationship that Trump supporters have with Trump, and it defies what the left says, and that is, Trump support, they're just a bunch of cult followers. There has been no group of people that have been saying Pam Bondi needs to go louder than Trump supporters. Yeah. And so, and Trump supporters are not constantly, but it's not uncommon for them to say, you got to do something about this, which of course is different from Democrats. I mean, again, just to go back to the Joe Biden, I mean, that guy so clearly was out of their mind, but they didn't care. They were told, no, you will follow him, you will support him, and so they do it. But Trump supporters aren't that way. Trump supporters will call out
standards too. I mean, look at the literal train wreck of Biden's administration. Literally trains going off the track. I mean, and then, I think it's just because we do have high standards. Yeah. And especially for females, I said this before, but, for her, the way that she acted during those hearings on Epstein, I mean, and her being so belligerent and not just, I mean, if you're in court, you can't just yell and, say the
Yeah,
judge is
it
an
was
idiot.
not
You
again,
have to answer the question.
and again, it was Trump supporters that were openly unimpressed with her
Yeah,
performance that day.
yeah, I mean, maybe she's on a spot that Trump said you can't do this or whatever. But I mean, you don't in an argument, you can't go and criticize the other side. The person that asked you the question, you know,
Right.
that's
Or
that.
for whatever reason, I thought during that whole exchange that day, the worst part was when she started talking about the stock market. And it's
I
like,
know.
okay, that's just bad.
Well, and then I thought
Like that has
something that you don't understand because she was saying something. She almost said dollars instead of points. She was trying to talk about the stock market. And I thought,
yeah, it's
an
just
analogy.
bad.
Please, understand what the labels are
Now,
for everything.
if it were flipped, and that was a performance from Merrick Garland,
Yeah, right.
Democrats would have praised him, talked about it was the greatest performance ever, and that is just once again a demonstration of the difference between people generally on the right versus on the left. And people on the right are so much more likely to call out. Listen, a huge. That's why there's such a discussion going on about what's going on in Iran. There's
I know.
not
Yeah.
this uniform. It's not like when Obama decided to have a 7-month war against Libya for regime change, and every Democrat was in line to the point Nancy Pelosi said, "Oh, he doesn't need to ask Congress." Nope, we're right there. No questions asked. With
Yeah. Right.
Trump, you've got a lot of discussions, a lot of people that are for it, a lot of Trump supporters that are opposed to it, a lot of Trump supporters that are like, I don't know. This is really a different situation, and I think that that's a sign of
Yeah.
of
I
a
agree. Yeah.
healthy base of independent thinkers as opposed to the cult-like mentality of the left. Christy Fulnecki, as
Yes.
always, great
That was
pleasure.
very
Would love
fun.
to see you Friday tomorrow at Vineyard Market, maybe 4
Okay.
to
Let's
6.
see if I can get done.
We've got Author of the Week coming up in the next hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Don't forget, tomorrow, of course, again, we do have, as I mentioned, happy hour at Vineyard Market from 4 to 6. Also, we will be doing the show live at Scramblers, 6A to 9A, and we'll have some of those baseball tickets between MSU and Mizzou for next week. You want to swing by and get some of those as well. It's going to be a veteran-honored event, and like I said, it'll be first come, first serve on the tickets as we're at Scramblers tomorrow. Springfield's Talk 10418. How's everyone doing? My name is Nick Reed. Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat from Illinois, is demanding that the Transportation Security Administration reintroduce the policy of requiring travelers to take off their shoes before going through airport security checkpoints. This is what they're worrying about. This is the Homeland Security priority. Duckworth called on the TSA to immediately reverse its move to end the shoes-off policy, calling former Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's decision last summer to scrap the policy a reckless act that may put travelers at risk. Duckworth wrote in a letter to the acting TSA administrator, Secretary Noem's decision to implement a shoe-on policy on July 8th of 25, likely without meaningful consultation with TSA, was a reckless act, allowing a potentially catastrophic security deficiency to remain in place for 7 months and counting, betrays the TSA mission, adding at a minimum TSA's failure to swiftly implement corrective action warrants and the immediate withdrawal of Security Noem's reckless and dangerous policy that increases the risk of a terrorist smuggling a dangerous item onto a flight. Now, as always, I recognize there may be background information I'm unaware of, and perhaps there's some sort of evaluation that was done that determined behind the scenes that, yes, this is such a horrible thing, and this has opened us up to some sort of potential national security danger. But when the person who is sounding the alarm on this is part of a political party that opened up our border to millions of illegals, including thousands of people that were from terrorist nations, including people that were known to be associated with terrorists and on terror watch lists, and have fought tooth and nail to prevent those individuals from being deported? Duckworth, among others within her party, that have gone to the mat defending the deportation of people who have called for the demise of America and the extermination of Jews? Defending people who say that we had 9/11 coming? Support the mass rioting of individuals or by individuals throughout our cities, or the declaration after October 7th by so many Democrat activists on college campuses that Jews needed to be wiped off this planet. And if anyone dared say that people who aren't even from this country but are here from a terrorist nation on a student visa who call for the destruction of America maybe shouldn't be here, and it's people like Duckworth and her party that have demanded they be allowed to stay here in the U.S. calling for our own destruction. For her to declare that our nation has not been put at risk by any of that, but because you no longer have to take your shoes off to get on an airplane. That is her perspective as she has presented it. That is her judgment. My God. The fact that those people in charge for 4 years only resulted in the damage that it did, when you get a true understanding and recognition of their skewed, twisted perspective on things, it's remarkable. I mean, we all went through tremendous amount of damage to our economy, to our national security, our border. I mean, again, this is a party that defended Biden's allowance of a Chinese spy satellite to go over our country, deliberately streaming back in real time to Beijing information it was obtaining while flying over secured military sites. And the Biden administration allowed them to do that. That was perfectly fine. That was not a danger to national security. But not having to take your shoes off at the airport somehow, in her judgment, that's the real danger. How we even still exist after 4 years of these complete suicidal morons in charge is beyond me. There truly, to some degree, must be protection from God at play here. Springfield's Talk 1041. We do have Author of the Week coming up, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Now the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Friday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 77. And taking a look at Saturday, mostly sunny with a chance of rain in the afternoon with a high near 81.
Someone mentioned, and I completely forgot about this, that Duckworth, the one who is pushing, because it's such a danger to our national security, to force us to go through the shoe off thing again, that she doesn't have legs. I mean, that part's not funny. And she lost them serving her country and everything. But one could argue, well, what does she care? She doesn't have to worry about taking them off. Interesting point. By the way, if you are concerned about the story that Mike Landis had about Torch, the company, and how they are putting a sort of a halt to the availability of usage of their so-called gambling machines in gas stations because of the law, don't worry. You can still get your fix because you can still buy lottery tickets up to $50 a pop. But that's the state that gets that money. So you still are able to gamble away your money. It's just the state is going to make sure that they get it as opposed to any sort of private industry. 4:01. I'm Nick Reed, and it is Thursday, which means it's time for Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author, Charles Goyette, a New York Times bestselling author and award-winning talk show host, also served on the National Speakers Bureau of High Frontier, the leading public policy organization that promoted President Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, and a news anchor with the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, and much, much more. Appreciate you being with us this morning, and want to talk about our book, obviously, today, Empire of the Lies, Fragments from the Memory Hole. And what a time to have this discussion with everything that's going on in Iran. And I think that a lot of Americans have a healthy dose of skepticism about what it is that we thought we knew about different conflicts and wars and international engagements. But there are sometimes, I think, maybe there's zero knowledge that we actually have about anything. How much of what we see is legit and true, and how much of it isn't?
Everything, Nick. Thank you for pointing that out. Everything needs to be taken, even if you want to accept it, and even if you want to lodge a great deal of faith in our elected officials, it needs to be accepted only provisionally. Hold it in abeyance. You can assume, okay, perhaps this is true. Let us find out. Let us trust, but verify. You know, when Kennedy was assassinated, 90% of the American people accepted the lone gunman story, the deranged lone gunman, the magic bullet that bounced from hither to yon many, many times over. But they don't accept it anymore. The Europeans were skeptical at the time. They thought they knew better. When Jack Ruby said that he killed Jack Kennedy because he didn't want his widow to have to go through a trial and suffer, everybody knew he was a mobster. And that probably wasn't his motivation. So Europeans were skeptical about our affairs, but the American people were willing to trust their government. But now we surely should have learned from the Vietnam Tonkin Gulf incident that didn't exist, but was the pretext for 3 million deaths. We should have learned from the non-existent WMDs in Iraq, the deep state coup on Ukraine that Victoria Nuland said, yeah, we spent $5 billion trying to topple the elected government there. Toppling the elected government in Iran certainly predates 47 years that everybody talks about now. Oh, they've been at war with us. We've been at war with them for 47 years. Nobody remembers the backstory of that when we toppled their elected government. Coups in Central America, the Bay of Pigs, and the Cuban Missile Crisis that should never have happened and was a deceit orchestrated by the CIA to embarrass President Kennedy and brought the world to literally to the brink. We just last year installed a bin Ladenite, a terrorist that had a $10 million bounty on his head by us. You and me, the taxpayers, had a $10 million bounty on this guy al-Shara's head because of his crimes and his acts of terrorism. And now we have installed him to run Syria. He's the president of Syria, and he's been feted in the White House. So with all of these things and so many more, I don't even recommend that people accept what the government says provisionally. I say, look at it, examine it, and go to sources that have a longer track record in integrity and honesty than instead of a clear objective that they spin the story to serve.
When did you get where you are in terms of that recognition? We all, over time, we sort of evolve, and based off our own experiences, will re-hone our skills of observation. What was it for you? Was it any one thing, or was it a slow evolution, or were you just always of this nature?
Well, I can't tell you that I always was able to see through anything or bother to go to the trouble to do so. I clearly was awake by the time the Iraq war happened. They would float stories day after day, Sean Hannity would tell you, they're moving the nuclear weapons. The inspectors can't find them because they're moving them around. They moved them to Syria and stuff. Well, it was absolute nonsense. Day after day, I would have people on my shows that, were experts in uranium refinement, construction of nuclear weapons, Department of Energy veterans and stuff that did these things for a living, refuting the stories that came out day after day after day, but gained great currency with the American people. But I will tell you on the positive side, I don't want to sound like I'm just complaining about everything, because back then I did a lot of media talking about the Iraq War. And for me, it was an uphill climb. It was really tough persuading the American people that they were being misled, that there would be no WMDs, and that it wouldn't turn out to be a cakewalk war that would last 6 days, 6 weeks, or I doubt 6 months, said Rumsfeld, that it would go on for a long time. And it was a long uphill climb. For years thereafter, people would stop me in public or email me, that they thought I was crazy at the time, but they understand now what I was saying. Now, in conjunction with my new book, Empire of Lies, Fragments from the Memory Hole, I've been doing a prolonged media tour, and the story that I am trying to tell people, the thing that I'm trying to bring to their attention about our national trajectory, if we don't begin to value the truth, is a much, much easier sell than it was. I guess that's because, we've lived through so many things. We've lived through
right.
so much.
We are talking with our author of the week, Charles Goyette. He mentioned the book Empire of Lies, Fragments from the Memory Hole. And obviously you cover so much in the book, but given some of what you just talked about with the Iraq War, I wanted to ask you, now I'll start off by saying, I think Donald Trump did something very interesting. And that was when he was first running for president. He did something that no high-profile Republican seemed to ever do, and that was give permission to Republican voters to recognize that maybe that should not have been done. It was sort of this thing that you didn't say, it seemed like. And he broke through that. And to me, that was a big psychological moment for a lot of voters, that maybe what we've just accepted quietly as, well, it happened, let's not think about it. We can look at it and think maybe it should not have happened. When it comes to, this is going to sound like such a broad question, but the war in Iraq, and you mentioned all the talk about weapons of mass destruction and all of these other things. What happened? I mean, why did all of that happen? What was Bush duped? What was the whole storyline there?
It's very well. First of all, I want to say you're very perceptive for recognizing that moment when Trump said, we were lied into the Iraq War. That was a pivotal moment. That was the little boy crying out that the king had no clothes.
Yeah.
And it was something that everybody could have recognized, but they didn't want to. And from that moment forward, it became acceptable in Republican circles for people to accept that. In fact, even Jeb Bush said, well, yeah, if I had known then what I know, I certainly wouldn't have gone to war in Iraq. So that is, in my view, a really, really key moment. The story about this is really important, because this is a parallel with some of the things going on today. The story about the weapons of mass destruction was the creation of a group inside the White House called had a name. It was the White House Iraq Group. They convened to come up with a pretext for the war that they wanted. Bush is well known and on record for having been eager to have a war in Iraq long before 9/11 even took place. So the White House Iraq Group would meet. Now, they're talking about, what are the reasons we should use? How can we sell the American people on this war? It wasn't consisting of, nuclear weapons experts, people talking about the consequences of nuclear war, or the prospect of them launching, and what kind of damage they could do, and what would be the consequences of what we did in response, and so on. It was spinmeisters. It was pollsters, spinmeisters, advertising guys, and they came together, and their sole objective was to come up with a marketing phrase, like they were marketing a soft drink. And the phrase that they finally came up with, that they tested and thought would work, was, we can't afford to wait for the smoking gun in the form of a mushroom cloud. And that was it. And Bush repeated it, Cheney repeated it, Rice, Ari Fleischer, on and on and on for months. Can't afford to wait for the smoking gun in the form of a mushroom cloud. That was the marketing slogan for the war that should never have happened, and went on for years, and actually was counterproductive. It actually empowered the Shia in Iraq and improved Iran's position in the Middle East as a consequence. So it was not well thought of, but it was intentionally conceived as a means to stampede people into a war that they did not want.
Well, I want to ask you one other aspect of it that I've always thought was interesting, and I tended to believe that somebody actually did believe there were weapons of mass destruction, because if not, they would have planted some. It's like you're a dirty cop and you say, "Oh, he pulled a gun on me," but then you didn't plant a gun on him. And it always seemed counter to common sense that they would knowingly claim that they believe weapons of mass destruction were there, but not then take some and go, "See, we found them." You know what I mean? It just
Yes.
seems like very poor
Yes.
planning. So, so what's the story there?
Well, two things. Should be an eye opener for the American people too. What they did find was certainly weren't the highly touted weapons of mass destruction or any kind of a nuclear weapons program. What they did find was the leftovers from more than 20 years earlier from Iraq's war when Iraq attacked Iran. Now, the American people need to remember a little bit of this history. Iraq, which was our guy. You know, we installed the Ba'ath Party. We installed Saddam Hussein by that means in Iraq. Iraq attacked Iran, and we abetted them in the acquisition of illegal chemical and biological weapons, and hundreds of thousands of Iranians died. So when people look at Iranians' disposition toward the U.S., the Iranians know this, but the American people don't. So what they found when we went back in 2003, they found the old desiccated, leftover, corroded, unusable remnants of our illegal weapons participation or empowerment of Iraq. But people did want to go to extremes to lie us into that war and to try to come up with evidence. And they couldn't create a big industrial project in some scientist's basement, as some people said. Well, we can't find the nuclear weapons program because they moved it into a scientist's basement. Well, these are big, huge industrial undertakings, and that's just not even credible. Well, what did happen is official documents were found that claimed that Saddam Hussein was trying to create the precursors, yellow cake, for uranium and uranium refinement from Niger in Africa. The only problem is that the documents were forged, and the White House knew they were forged because when they referred to them, they say, "We have learned from British sources." So they didn't claim it themselves. They, wanted to sanitize it, hand it off to the British. They tell us this, but they had the documents, and in fact, they wouldn't turn them over to the International Atomic Energy Agency until it was much too late. The IAEA looked at these forged documents about the Niger yellow cake, and it took them 15 minutes to figure out they were forged. Forged signatures of people that weren't even officials of the government at the time. A high school kid could have figured out they were forged, but our government wouldn't turn them over to the IAEA because they were a helpful tool in justifying this needless war.
We're talking with our author of the week, Charles Goyette. The book Empire of Lies, Fragments from the Memory Hole. Another just broad question, as you mentioned earlier in this conversation, that there's so many different things covered. But I want to get your thoughts on everything Iran right now.
Yes. Well, it's
it's a big question, but
it is,
and I know it's still obviously so much is unfolding and day to day.
But I do want to say this, Nick. The incoherence of the story should be a clue that tips everybody off. We were told this is a war to save the Iranian people because we love the Iranian people. We want to rescue the Iranian people. Now the president says they're animals, and we want their whole civilization to die tonight. We have gone from caring about the Straits of Hormuz being open to the president saying, "We don't care about the Strait of Hormuz. We're energy independent. If the Europeans want to come in, they can fix it." And now we understand that if they don't, well, you probably remember the Easter morning message from President: "Open the blankety blank straits, you blankety blanks, and if you don't do that, you'll be living in hell. Just watch." And so it flip flops from one day to the next. One day it's a war, the next day it's an excursion. I mean, it's just a regime change has occurred, and then we have to inflict a regime change, says the president. Well, what is it? It's we are negotiating with them, and then the Iranians say, "We're not negotiating with anybody. We're not talking with anybody. There is no negotiation." So all of these conflicting stories that have come out of the White House should give people pause that there's more behind what is the public pretext for this war than meets the eye.
Flight 800, TWA. Do you have any thoughts on that, or is that outside your Rolodex here? Because that's one.
Well, no, it's very much inside. I think there probably two mostly credible theories about really what happened to Flight TW-8 800 in July of 1996, a July cool evening. Hundreds of people were witnesses to it. They found later, many of them, that their accounts had been changed in the official record. They were not called to testify at the official inquiry. No such no such event as the phantom spark in the center wing fuel tank had ever occurred in a million flights before that, nor has since. But even more important to me, and I don't try to tell people this is the final answer, this is what I believe, and you could drop the story now, we have this. More important to me is the suggestion that you should wonder what happens if the government had told us the truth, the plain truth about TW-800. What would the subsequent changes have been in our national posture? Would we have been more alert? Could the first World Trade Center attack have occurred? Could the second? Would airlines have changed their security procedures? There are so many things that, had the truth been told to us about that, would have been different.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time, and I know a lot of our listeners, some of the things that you've said, they're like, right on, and then just flip around and like, wait a minute, he's crazy,
Yeah,
which
sure.
but I love that. In fact, I'm going to have to see if I can get you connected up. We've one of our other hosts on the weekend, James Clary, you are right up his alley. He'd love to have you
That
on.
would be great.
So I'll pass along the info to, see if I can get him to reach out to you. But I really appreciate your time that you spent with us, and encourage people to read sometimes the challenging for themselves in terms of what we get comfortable believing. And it doesn't mean you have to believe it all, but I think it's good mental exercise. Our author of the week, Charles Goyette, once again, the book Empire of Lies, Fragments from the Memory Hole for Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick. We're going to jump it over to traffic here as they have patiently stood by, running a few minutes behind. Do want to remind you that in addition, of course, to our breakfast tomorrow, we broadcast live from Scramblers, and we'll have some tickets on hand for next Wednesday's game. It's baseball, MSU versus Mizzou, and it's going to be really heavily veteran-focused, Folds of Honor involved. It's going to be just, a great event overall, but one of the a great rivalry, too, being the two big Missouri schools at that baseball game. And we'll have tickets for it tomorrow. If you want to just come by and ask us, we'll get you some while they do last. We aren't going to make you register or anything. And then we have a happy hour at Vineyard Market, that tomorrow, 4 to 6.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First, meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 80. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 57. For your Friday, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 77. And for Saturday, mostly sunny with a chance for rain in the afternoon with a high near 81. And Springfield Livestock Marketing Center coming up this Saturday. The Springfield Livestock will host the Beef Master Ozark and Heart of America sale. Oh, yes. That sale will start at noon, and they will be selling cattle of all categories. Now, if you can't make it out but you want to attend virtually, they offer live streaming options and online bidding through DV Auction. Just make sure, if that's the route that you want to go, make sure that you are pre-registered and all ready to go before that sale date. To check out other upcoming sales, visit the Springfield Livestock social media or their calendar of events on their website, springfieldlivestock.com. They keep it very updated. And of course, you can find all of the contact information for the Springfield Livestock Marketing Center under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
There is a New York Post story which is increasingly frequent regarding Democrat activists going after Jews. The latest, a New York City, of all people, a mental health nurse has been fired after she filmed herself harassing a group of Israeli men in Times Square, repeatedly calling them baby killers and terrorists, in a hate-filled anti-Semitic rant that only ended when a performer dressed as Spider-Man intervened, only in New York City. Jennifer Coonings, who worked at the Manhattan-based Inspire Mental Health Services, shared multiple videos on Instagram of the moment she unleashed the wave of vitriol over the weekend as she tried to bait the group of unassuming men in the packed tourist hotspot, yelling, "You guys killed babies in Palestine, slaughtered babies," she shouted in one clip posted to her 141,000 Instagram followers. "We don't want you here," she yelled. "You're a terrorist." Eventually, a panhandler dressed as Spider-Man had to step in to urge Coonings to back off. What a demonstration here. A panhandler dressed as Spider-Man demonstrated more kindness, compassion, and sanity than a Democrat activist. I mean, are we really shocked by this? The panhandler told the Democrat activist, quote, "You don't need to harass people," while she and several other women shouted anti-Semitic things at the, there were tourists from Israel. What a welcome to America. This is what Democrats have turned this country into. In a second clip that seemingly preceded the ordeal, Coonings, who has a history of anti-Israel political activism, recorded herself asking the men where they were from. When they noted they were from Israel, the off-camera response prompted one of the men to say, "Oh, so you don't like us now?" And these were individuals. They were clearly tourists. Apparently, they had suitcases nearby, and somehow she realized they were Jewish and decided to approach them. This was a proactive approach. There's another story on page 6 regarding a veteran New York stand-up comedian by the name of Judy Gold. And she noted after a recent stand-up in New York City that she is, quote, shocked by how brazen anti-Semitism has become in New York City. Page 6 reporting, Judy Gold was left stunned when she encountered Jew-hating hecklers at 2 different comedy clubs over the weekend. The 63-year-old comedian performing at the New York Comedy Club on Friday night when a vile audience member shouted, "You're a Jew," as a slur. Gold, who has been performing stand-up for over 40 years, says she's encountered plenty of annoying audience members, but nothing like what New York City has become. These are increasingly common stories. This is how hate flourishes. You normalize it. looking back, historians will recognize, well, I believe we all will, what a massive turning point it was whenever the people of New York City voluntarily voted to put in charge an unapologetic anti-Semite that praised the idea of global jihad and sat down with people that were promoters of terrorism. Not to have debates, but to break bread. It is normalizing hatred. They normalize it when, for example, his wife does illustrations for a book that is, in the context of promoting terrorism and the evil Jews and so forth, and then that is written off as, well, that she's just drawing pictures. Every overt demonstration of anti-Semitism now in New York City gets written off by Democrats as, oh, it's just this. It's just that. You know that it has become normalized successfully by Democrats when you have individuals recording themselves berating Jews and then posting it. You do that because you feel as if you are going to be cheered on. You do that because you, in the world that has been created, the culture around you, recognize that you will be rewarded for such behavior. This is what Democrats have done to New York City. It should come as no surprise after October 7th, arguably the areas of the country in which Democrats have complete and utter cultural control are college campuses. And look what happened on college campuses after October 7th. Celebrations. Running Jews off of campus. Some campuses, literally, Jews were locking themselves in classrooms because they were being physically harassed and their safety was in danger. And then when the Trump administration attempts to deport some of the foreign students that are responsible for this hate, Democrats step in and hold press conferences defending the anti-Semites. Nothing I'm saying is factually inaccurate. And the reason the danger here is the normalization of it all by acting as if it's no big deal, by acting as if the pushback against it, the outrage against it is simply blowing things out of proportion. It encourages it. It breeds it. And I've yet to see a single Democrat stand up and say, you know what, maybe we're headed down or already down a very, very dark road here. And the irony of these people collectively calling Donald Trump Hitler and Republicans Nazis, when their ideology and behavior is from their playbook. You know, the modern Hitler of today's era has been taken out by Donald Trump, as has the next Hitler and the next Hitler. These are all individuals in leadership that Donald Trump has taken on who want the elimination of the Jews, who are the modern-day version of Hitler, and the people who call Donald Trump Hitler are the first ones to say, stop. They're the first ones to have their feelings hurt because he sent a mean tweet to the modern-day Hitlers. You can throw around the terminology all you want. You can point the fingers all you want. You can try and tell yourselves that ICE is nothing but a collection of Nazis. But your behavior speaks for itself. And whenever a city that is 80+% Democrat feels so comfortable with anti-Semitism that its people record themselves proudly and post it on social media, chasing down and screaming at Jews. Once again, this isn't a, quote, problem on both sides. It's very, very clear which side anti-Semitism is on, and growing at a very frightening rate in this country, and it is the Democrat Party. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Foreman at Mechanical Heating and Air want to read a review for the fine folks over there. Chris wrote, I've had the Foreman team service my AC a couple of times now over the past few years. Always good service, always professional, but today was even better. Austin was very professional and courteous this morning and had me back up in short order. Great hometown company, great hometown service. I highly recommend them. And that is exactly what you get with the Foreman team. Austin is my service tech. He is the one that comes out every single time. He knows my house. He knows my service history, knows me. That helps tremendously. And yes, I agree with Chris. He is absolutely awesome. Now, whether you need a repair, maybe you want to sign up for that annual maintenance program, or maybe you're ready for a new unit, reach out to Russell. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Before I address some consistent themes here on the text messages coming in regarding the increased hostility and just danger towards Jewish people at the hands of Democrat activists. And any given day in New York City, these stories pop up. And another one here, New York Post, Michael Moore torches U.S. as bad guys, hails the Iranian government and the nation as the greatest civilization. Maybe prior to the Islamists taking over, they certainly were extremely advanced, culturally, scientifically. But to claim in this day and age that the people running Iran are a superior civilization, this is Michael Moore. This is the government is a civilization that executes homosexuals, that wants all Jews completely gone. I don't know what, what I hope is that under the radar, there are a significant number of people who have long believed that the Democrat Party held their values, and they are quietly just backing away. Because the alternative is they are becoming this. They are becoming supporters of regimes that want the Jews eliminated, that execute homosexuals, that beat women because they're considered property, that will execute women who show their hair or dare believe they should be executed. The fact that Democrats increasingly are supporting those regimes and those beliefs and those policies. Again, it doesn't mean that you suddenly have to become Republican for Pete's sakes. One of the questions that keeps popping up, and it's a consistent question, why on earth would Jewish people vote Democrats? Now, you'll hear oftentimes it explained, well, there's a difference between the ethnic Jewish person and the religious Jewish person. And while that is true, I don't believe that there is a difference to anti-Semites. They don't care. These left-wing activists that say from the river to the sea, they aren't okay with ethnic Jews. It's just the religious Jews they want. All of them. It makes no difference to them whatsoever. Now, it is incomprehensible for non-Jewish people to look at the Democrat Party and look at the Jewish people and to say, like, how on earth can you support this political party? But just to sort of bring it home, and while there are degrees of differences, is it any more absurd for Christians to be Democrats? This is a political party that is out there hounding away at creating this devil image of Christian nationalism that has deemed Christianity as potential domestic terrorist, has focused specifically on the Catholic Church, that makes all sorts of absurd claims about Christ and abortion and demonize Christians left and right. Yet how many Christians identify as Democrats? Quick break, more ahead. I'm Nick Reed.